Hey everyone, this is Bales. I'm looking at the Trends product for PGA and going to show you how to use this and get the most out of it for golf. So here are a bunch of trends that I created. We'll click on one and I'll run through it. So the idea behind this product is we're looking for certain parameters that lead to value or have historically led to value. So this one is recent field score of at least 90. Field score is a percentile rank 0 to 100 of how difficult a golfer's competition is. And the idea is that if a golfer has faced really difficult fields in the past, especially the recent past, his numbers aren't going to be as good as if he were facing weaker fields, just because he's not going to finish as high and he's not going to score as many fantasy points for that reason. So when a golfer has faced really difficult fields, especially coming into a tournament, it probably means that if he's facing a weaker field now, he'll finish higher even if he's golfing at the same level. So it's pretty predictive of success. You can see there's been 592 golfers. I think our sample here is 10,000 golfers maybe, so this would be roughly the top 5 or 6%. 592 golfers expected, based on their salary, to score 61.58 points on DraftKings. They've actually scored 65.11, so that's 3.53 points above what you'd expect. So if you targeted solely these golfers in the past, you would have scored 3.53 points above expectation per golfer per tournament. And then a consistency rating of 60.6, which means that they've surpassed this expectation, whatever their expectation is based on their salary, 60.6% of the time, which is very high. So down here we have graphs of the result. This is a histogram, which shows just the quantity. So 116 of those 592 golfers have scored between 0 and 10 points above expectation. And you can see that this is, we have 60.6% of the results here in green, obviously, which is a positive result. And you can see that there's just more results. It's skewed toward doing well, especially very well. So if you look at golfers who have scored 40 points or more below expectation, there's only been 13 of those 592, but 40 points or more above, there's been 45. You can also look at the results over time. So this is by day. So you can see that's been pretty much a consistently beneficial trend. And then you can also look at it by month. You can also look at every past result. So click on past results. Here are all 592 golfers who have met this particular trend, the date, their expectation based on their salary, how many points they actually scored, and their field score. You can also look at current matches. So coming up in this particular tournament this week, these are all of the golfers who hit this trend. So you can also start to combine things. So if you want to look solely at these golfers and whittle this down even more by looking, say, at those who rank in the top 15%, let's say, in Vegas, to win the tournament, you can do that. That actually lowers the plus minus of our trend, so this wouldn't be as good. And there are also no current matches for this week. So here are the past results. There's only 103, no current matches. So we will delete that, and we'll go back and create our own trend. So you can create a fantasy trend by clicking this button. You'll be asked to name the trend. A lot of times you won't know what you want to do exactly, so I just hit test, click the sport, and then the site, obviously for PGA, it's just going to be DraftKings. And what's really cool about PGA that we're doing is you can look by course. So you can create a trend that's for every course, or for the tournament coming up, you can select your course and test different theories. So there's certain courses, for example, that are longer that people think are going to benefit guys who can drive the ball very far. So you can test to see, is that actually the case? Are guys who are driving the ball far doing better on these certain courses relative to others? So we'll just go with all, click OK. And then there's a few different ways that you can start. First of all, there's a parameter here, which is just includes every golfer. We have 10,601 samples in our database. which is that number of individual tournaments. And the parameter is just salaries between 0 and 20,000. So you can remove that if you want, but that includes every golfer. You can see that the count didn't go up at all. So there's a few different ways that you can potentially search for a particular trend. You can just look through the stats and find things that you think are going to be interesting, that you think might be predictive, and just test them. So we might look at a golfer's long-term adjusted round score and just move this slider and see how predictive it becomes as we move it up. And you can see that right here, the plus minus, and then the sample. So as we change this, how is value changing? If you look at guys who are really low in long-term adjusted round score, which is arguably the most important stat for DFS, you can see just how bad they've been. So this is a sample of 438, which means we're looking at roughly the bottom 4% of golfers. They've scored 9 points below expected. Even when you get to a large sample, so we're looking at roughly the top 16, 17% of golfers here, actually the lowest in long-term adjusted round score, they've scored 4 points below expectation. So you really want to avoid those golfers. The other way to do this is to think of a certain narrative that you want to test. So I mentioned the one with driving distance by course. We might look at something like a particular narrative might be that we want to target the golfers who have the best chances to win, right? So the best odds score in Vegas. So maybe we'll look at the top 20% of golfers in terms of odds to win a tournament, and we see that they have indeed offered value, a plus minus of 2.66 with a sample of 563. So we can click that trend, we'll see the histogram change, and it does get skewed more toward positive results. Consistency, not that great, not the same that we saw with the high field score, but still 54.9% is above just random chance. So that's more or less how I like to use trends. Just play around with it a lot. Look for current matches who are coming up for a particular tournament. You can also combine trends. So we're looking at top 20% of golfers in terms of Vegas odds. We might combine that with guys who are playing really well recently. So we'll look at recent adjusted round score. And put that up into the top 20% as well. And we see that actually, so this would debunk the idea that guys who have a really high bet, high probability to win a tournament and are playing well. It appears that that plus minus actually at the top end of the spectrum is actually quite poor. What if we look at guys who are actually playing poorly of late? Bottom 30% also not great. So it's really the guys in the middle, the guys who are playing really well or really poorly. My guess is because if they're playing well, it's priced into their salaries. So yeah, that's ways that you can combine different parameters to sort of zero in on the guys that you want. The one thing I will say is I tend to not create trends that are going to look at the top 0.1 or 0.2% of people. When that sample goes down, there's a good chance you're just looking at noise. You can always find something. So we want to keep, we're balancing two things. We want this plus minus to be as high as possible and also the consistency to be as high as possible. But we also want the count to be as high as possible. We want as many golfers in the sample as we can get. So you're always trying to balance those things. And when this gets down, below 100, or where you're looking at a couple dozen golfers, you just can't necessarily trust it. There might be something there, but there might not. So you don't want to set too many parameters that you have a super low sample where it's just very likely to be noise. So this is a really useful tool. You can test all of your different theories, look for current matches, who might be guys to target in upcoming tournaments, and I think it's really, really valuable for golf in particular.